looking at these parts right here, well, these are parts that I'm not using at the moment on a upcoming model that I am creating, in which I do not have all the parts for yet. Now, some of these parts are actually not going to be used on this model, but I have them in this pile anyway, just in case I may find out that there is a part that I may need on some sort of on the model that I am creating. Now, where do I get the parts that I need? Well, I get them off of Bricklink. People may be asking me, what is Bricklink? Well, I can tell you. Bricklink is a website that people go to when they want to buy or sell Lego sets or parts. Now, it's not an official Lego marketing site. It's kind of like eBay, only for Legos. It's where people just go and, well, if they are a seller, they can sell the parts that they want to sell, put them up, and then wait for someone to come by and buy the pieces. And then once that's done, they get the mailing address from the seller, so they can email the seller the parts that the not seller. So the buyer can send the parts. No, sorry, I'm getting kind of confused. So the seller can send the buyer the parts that the buyer bought. Now, how long does it take for a Bricklink order to come? Well, it all depends on your location and the location of the seller. Sometimes it may take a couple of weeks, sometimes it may just take a few days. Now, when I buy on Bricklink, I prefer to only buy from shops that only buy parts that are from sellers in the United States and Canada, because they have some very cheap shipping costs. Because I've heard online that shipping costs for outside countries are a lot more. So what I am saying is, I prefer to buy from Bricklink shops where the shops are either in the United States or Canada, because any shops in the rest of the world are going to have pretty expensive shipping. Though I have in the past purchased a couple of orders from a UK seller, but those orders were not very huge. Now, another thing that I like to do when I am purchasing parts from Bricklink, well, for one thing, if I just want to buy a piece because I think it looks interesting and I don't have any exact purpose for it at the time that I'm buying it, and that I will come up with something for it later, well, I put it on my main wanted list. But if there is a part that I want for a certain type of model, I put it on a special wanted list. A wanted list where parts that I need for an upcoming model are put, so then I can go to a Bricklink store and I can click on which wanted list I want to see, and they will show me only the parts from the wanted list that I had selected. Now, sometimes I kind of prefer to, like if I am trying to buy parts for a model, I sometimes like to find a Bricklink shop that has as many parts on that wanted list as possible. Sometimes I may even buy parts from another wanted list, just so I would have them, though another reason would be if the Bricklink shop has a minimum amount of money that you have to spend. And if you like add the parts, the Lego parts, into your shopping cart on Bricklink, and you go to the checkout, they say that you need some sort of amount to go to checkout because, well, some sellers on Bricklink prefer you to only buy a certain amount. Well, they prefer if you buy parts for about at least a certain price. Though there are some ways where you can bypass the minimum, but some people on Bricklink will put an extra charge for bypassing the minimum. Now, another thing to note about Bricklink is that, well, the prices for each part vary from store to store. So you probably want to try to find the cheapest parts that you can from a certain shop. Though if they don't have all the parts that you need, you may want to go somewhere else, even if this one certain part may cost a bit more elsewhere. Though sometimes you may decide to just leave a certain piece out of a Bricklink order. I'm just doing this for the fun of it. So you can buy it for cheaper somewhere else. Now, what is also interesting is that some sellers buy parts in the same mold but different prices depending on the color. And that would be based upon how common that piece in that specific color are. For example, with the Mr. Golds, in which there are only 5,000 in the world, even sellers on Bricklink will sell them for a very high amount of money because, well, it is a rare minifigure, so it is worth a lot of money. And it is said that everyone wants to get a Mr. Gold, but only a few will be successful. And those few that are may or may not put them onto Bricklink or eBay to sell so they can get huge amounts of money. And I think that's one reason why Mr. Gold even came into existence, because Lego wants you to try to buy their minifigures. So, a bit of advice, if you want to, some bit of advice, don't try to go around looking for a Mr. Gold because, well, they are just not that common. You may buy a minifig box that is full of minifigures, but you're not guaranteed that you will find a Mr. Gold because there is some sort of Lego book out there that says that Mr. Gold is the only minifigure from Series 10 that is not in every box of minifigures. I mean, based upon a video that I saw called, like a video channel called EvanTube HD, you should check his channel out. He does a couple of interesting videos along with his sister, and they've done opening bags showing from Series 10 and Series 12, and for both series, I'm not counting Mr. Gold this time, for both series they found at least 2 of every minifigure. Mr. Gold, they were lucky enough to find 1. So pretty much if you get a box of minifigures from a certain series, you are guaranteed that you will get at least 1 of every minifigure, except Mr. Gold, because there are only a few of those in the world, because there are 5,000 Mr. Golds in the world, but you should know that there are more minifig boxes than there are Mr. Gold. So, my advice, if you buy a Lego minifig box expecting to buy a Mr. Gold, I would probably use that money to buy something more useful. Okay. Now, some parts are luckily not as expensive as Mr. Gold, though there are some pieces that only are available in certain sets. Like when I reviewed the Rocka Stealth Machine set, I mentioned the translucent green claw pieces, which were, until Rocka Stealth Machine was released, only available with Scarox, and how they weren't as common, because when I checked Bricklink one time, they were just not available. And even if they were available, they were not available in any store that is in the United States or Canada. But now that those translucent green claw pieces had been released with Rocka Stealth Machine, they should start to become more common. And that is always a good thing for pieces to become more common. So if you want to buy them, you have a higher chance at finding them. Okay. So I'm just gonna go now, because I think I've discussed everything about Bricklink. So if you didn't know about Bricklink before, now you do know, and you know where to find pieces to, to find pieces to buy parts from. Though before I did pick a brick from Lego Shop at Home, which only has a few parts, like parts that are recently released, but at the time of recording this video, apparently there aren't many good parts on Pick-a-Brick right now, but on Bricklink you will find a variety of very useful parts, parts that are from all the way from the beginning of when Lego came into existence to, well, now. So I'm gonna leave now.